Now, I want you to contain your shock and disbelief when I tell you this piece of information. This, my Alfa Romeo 145, has got an electrical fault. I know electrical faults and Alfa Romeos are things that generally are never spoken of in the same sentence, but believe it or not, we have got a little bit of an issue with this car today. Let's go and have a look at what the problem is. Well, it's bad news. It's gone typically Italian. It's got its fancy new security central locking remote stuff and alarms and things, which is all good. However, this light cluster has decided that only the side light bulb is going to work and nothing else, which is kind of annoying. So let's pop the bonnet and see if we can find out which earth has fallen off. Right, so I've got my testy lighty screwdriver thing, which shows with it clamped onto an earth just there, I've got some glowy light just there. Also got glowy light just there. And it's not very bright though, but also, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but there's a very dim glow happening inside the light. Which means there is power, but it must be a bad earth. So I'm just got to figure out where these wires disappear to inside all this trunking. Now, if it wasn't for this working side repeater and tail light, I would assume this was a broken fuse, a blown fuse. However, as it is working on the side, it's got to be an earth, I guess. Now, after a lot of trailing all of these little cables, these many, well, these cables are in these cable run protector things, which makes them impossible to find. The indicator is the muddy light grey one that snakes up here, goes into a junction just underneath here, and comes down into here. I've peeled this tape off this one, but that was just where a bunch of cables all run together. There's no actual joints down there. However, looking some more, I've now found a huge bundle of earths all going down to one bolt here on the front chassis, which is a little bit crusty. So I'm going to take this bolt off and clean up this earth point, and hopefully that'll fix this light. I've established it's a 13mm bolt, and I've been through the little tiny socket, the middle size socket, and now I'm going to the big size socket. If I can find the head of this bolt in here, that looks really useful. It's pitch dark and inaccessible. There we go. Oh, bumsy. Oh. This presumably is where I'm going to disable the entire electrical system of the car, and nothing will work after I've done this. Oh, bumsy. Well, that was one of those enormously fun, should have taken about 30 seconds, but actually took about 40 minutes. Bolts, it's really inaccessible and was actually quite grotty on the threads and also very grotty on the back, so I'm going to get a load of sandpaper in there. I guess that might well be the reason I've not got an earth, because it's all rather rusty. Well, that's a whole bunch shinier, and so hopefully we'll have the ability to make an earth. Now somebody needs to go and clean up the same bit on the bit of metal down on the chassis rail, and also the actual connection on the wire. And here's our cable which comes down to the earth. It's multiple earth wires all stranded into one big, or combined into one big strand on a one big block connector, which is looking a bit, well, very, very crusty in fact. So maybe if that's rusty on this surface, rusty on the bolt surface, rusty on the bolt thread, and a bit crusty on, well, the chassis rail surface, that's probably why I'm not getting a strong enough signal or amount of electricity through. Get some sandpaper. Right, so now sanded up to a bit of a shine. It all looks quite good. I've even doused it all in a bit of contact cleaner as well to get any dirt out of the, or try and get some dirt out of the grooves of the thread. It's tidying up a lot easier than it came out. It was very reluctant to come out indeed. And now, fingers crossed, the moment of truth. Well, the indicator didn't work, and neither did the headlight. That clearly wasn't it then. Do you ever think your car problems are far too mundane and ordinary and not exciting enough or interesting enough? Well, you've come to the right place. I thought, as the earth thing didn't work out, I would have a quick look at the fuse box after all. Reached up here to pull the fuse box down. As I brushed my hand underneath, a relay fell in half. I don't know which relay it is. Well, no, it is. Oops, this one here. Let's pull the fuse panel down. Let's pull the fuse panel down. So we can see, is this one on the end? I don't actually know what that one does. I'm going to find the book. I've just started the car and everything seems to work still. Let's do it again. The car works. Oh no, I guess it's something to do with the instruments, because none of them work anymore. Okay, so the light's on, the instruments die. No lights on the back at all. Oh no, there's a light there, sorry. My bad, just doesn't show up on the camera. Oh, this is weird. Okay. I'm going to go and find the book and find out what that relay did. Well, according to the book, B, which is this one here, is the rear fog lights, which I didn't actually try and should have no bearing whatsoever on the instruments. The one opposite, which is the same kind, N, is the windscreen and rear wipers. So I've just done a quick swap to see if that makes any difference. Wipers still work. Hang on, let's try starting the car again. No, that's weird. Oh great, it's doing weird stuff. Idling really high. Let's turn it off. Now relays are pretty tough things, and so the fact I just kind of brushed my hand against it and it fell in half suggests it was already broken. So I don't know when it broke. I can't imagine it's got anything to do with my lack of headlights, or maybe it has. I don't know, but my instruments were working before and now my instruments aren't. Very, very weird. Don't you love Italian cars? Well, I came home from work today and found a parcel been delivered, and it contained this little 8-pronged servo relay, which I'm going to have a quick try at fitting. Now, it did occur to me whilst I was driving around with randomly missing instruments, speedo, fuel gauge, or no indicator on the front corner or no headlight. Which way does this thing go? That this fog lamp relay may in fact be responsible for far more than the fog lights. A very Alfa Romeo-ish way of routing everything that's unconnected to the fog lights through the fog light relay. It's kind of exactly the kind of thing Alfa would do, or Fiat would do anyway. So let's see if I've now got, oh there we go, I have an unlikely amount of fuel in there. Let's put the lights on and see what I've got here. Okay, same deal. Lights go on, instruments go out. Nope, still not got working headlights. Well, that's not good. So, wonder what actually is broken. Is it a bad earth somewhere? This is going to get confusing. Might go and enlist the assistance of an auto electrician type person for this one. Incidentally, that little relay is still available from your Fiat Alfa main dealer. It costs 66 quid and takes about a week and a half to arrive. Or you can go to Clover Breakers, where it's £15, free postage, and it arrived in about 2 days. So, take your pick. Right, I'm at the end of my tether. I can't figure out what's gone wrong, but Jamie here at Go Italia is convinced it's an earth-related problem, as I thought as well, but he's got the tools and the experience and the machines to figure out where that earth problem is. So after failing to find any kind of reason for the weird earth electrical situation, I spoke to Jamie at Go Italia, and he told me to look underneath the dashboard for a common earth point, which is normally around the driver's A-post on a right-hand drive car. I couldn't find it, so I gave up and took it to him to have a look for it instead. And he spent a long time searching for it as well, but he couldn't find it either. So, because sometimes they bung a left-hand drive loom in for no good reason whatsoever. So he took that side apart, still couldn't find it. Sometimes they didn't put them there at all, sometimes they put them in the engine bay, just because. So went back to that first earth point I'd looked at all that time ago in the very beginning. Any more? That's 3 broken wires and there's 4, no, 5, 6, 7, oh they're all broken. That'll be that then. So, even though I've cleaned this and then Jamie's cleaned this connector, the connector doesn't go anywhere. That looks like it might be the reason we've got dodgy electrics in this car. Verdigris Central, that's green instead of copper coloured, and all those wire ends have just disintegrated into nothing. No wonder the earth was all over the place. Right, and so the fix. What I've done, I've previously tinned, or just tinned, 11 lengths of earth cable of 2 different sizes, because that's what's in the engine bay, and they are all cut long, so I can cut these to different lengths, so I've knocked all the tails terminating in the same place with a massive block of solder and tape, so they're all staggered, so it's a neater repair. Meanwhile, in the vise, preheating, hopefully getting nice and warm, I have got the original connector, which has been extensively cleaned up inside and out, so hopefully it will now be in a position to accept solder. And I did try a little test run with some solder earlier, and it was not taking it at all. So I've been and gone and got some flux, like what you would use if you were doing copper piping, to give this a bit of a bite to take it in. Now if this doesn't work, and there's a strong possibility it won't, I've also got a bag of these little 10mm, 8mm spade connectors, so I can put 2 or 3 in each and just have a bunch of them going into the earth point rather than one massive common earth. Just too much stuff. I don't know how they did it at the factory. I'm not convinced that's all gone all the way in. And a lot of these seem to be halfway hanging out. So I'll flood this with as much solder as we can. Get it all very, very hot, very, very soldery. That is surprisingly warm. Wow, this is actually not binding at all. Despite the flux, the solder, the cleaning up of it, it has not taken even a little bit. Which means we're doing the small individual ones. I forgot to plug the light in, that's a lot better now. Never mind, anyway. So that didn't even work a little bit, so we'll go on to plan B, which I had a feeling was coming. I'm going to go in with the extreme crimper. Well, that's one done. Let's do, well, I guess about 3, 4 more of these things. So I've got a little stack. I hope the bolt's strong enough. Get as many as I can in each. Actually, while I'm looking down here at this chassis leg, I'm noticing there's not much paint left on here, so it's not particularly accessible, but I'm going to try and get a wire brush in there and then maybe squirt some rust inhibiting primer or some hammerite or something on that to stop it going any more crusty than it is already. Right, so after a long and frankly quite tedious spell magicking wires together, we now have 11 new earths all down there in that one big mess of a spider. Let's turn the key and see if the car either works or catches fire. Right, okay, so we have now got a fuel gauge which is not pinning itself to the top. Let's put the engine on. Whoops, clutch down. Got a rev counter functioning. The temperature gauge, I'm assuming, is functioning because previously it was pinning itself to the top of the dial, so I'm guessing that's better. Let's put the lights on. Oh, okay, not 100% wind then. I have got an indicator though. I'll try hitting it some more later. At least the indicator works, that's a win there. One more thing I do wonder about is, does the air conditioning work now? Oh, I heard a click this time. I might actually have aircon. Oh well, we'll give that a blast. I was running something down the road to see if I've got a speedo on. Oh, it does feel chilly. Might just be because it's a very cold day. It does feel a little bit cool. That might just be wishful thinking. Never know. Right, let's go bung a GoPro on the dashboard and see if the speedometer works again. Well, would you look at that? My fuel gauge is holding steady at 3/4 of a tank because every time I drove it I was sticking a couple of gallons in because I didn't want to run out because I had no clue what was in there. The temperature gauge is now creeping gently up. It's at about 1/4 of the way up, at 70 degrees C, and that's not pinned to the top again, so that's good. That shows it's working well. And we of course have the speedometer. The problem we had before was if I braked, I'll brake now, there we go, I lost the speed completely. It just dropped to the bottom. Now it's working again. That was a serious issue because I was driving down a dual carriageway from a 70 to a 50 the other day going up to Jamie's, and there was a speed trap van sitting on the bridge, and so I was trying to brake to exactly 50 or below, and every time I braked I lost the speedo and couldn't tell how fast I was going. I didn't know if I braked down to 50 or not, so I had to let go of the brakes, wait for the speedometer to reappear, and that was quite a stressful little moment of journeying. Also, if I put the side lights on, everything went haywire. Side lights are on, everything is functioning as it should. Oh, this is good. This is a happy day. So all I've not got fixed is that one headlight, and I did. So there we have it, a car which would appear to be functioning in 99% of the ways it should be, apart from that one headlight which I will investigate later on. I'm guessing one of the earth wires I put together didn't work properly, or I maybe even missed one. Maybe there's a 12th black earth wire which has dangled off somewhere in the distance and vanished. I don't know. Anyway, there's another one matching, mirroring that big connector block on the other side. So I'll take that apart and make sure that's all in solid state as well before too long. But meantime, I've now got a car where I can see how fast I'm going, see the engine's not overheating, and indicate as well, which is, you know, most of the things you really want from a car. I'm happy. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, please, as always, hit like and subscribe. Join me again next time when I'll be working on one of these or something completely different. Who knows? Take care, everybody.